has taken a fall. It happened during the Senate Republican lunch today. Bit of breaking news to bring to you right now. We've gotten word that Republican leader Mitch McConnell has taken a fall. It happened during the Senate Republican lunch today. Two medical responders were seen briefly entering the office. Afterward, they have now left. Our Jay O'Brien is on the Hill. Jay, what more do we know?
Yeah, Kira, we know essentially what you know, which is that Mitch McConnell had that fall during the weekly Senate Republican lunch. Obviously, it was in the view of the Senate Republican Conference and his colleagues. He is currently in his office. Last we were aware, he was visited briefly by two medical responders who went into his office, briefly visited with McConnell, and then left. John Thune, who's the incoming Senate Majority Leader who is taking over for McConnell, has said that McConnell is fine and that he's in his office. That is the extent of what we know of McConnell's condition after that fall. But remember, Kira, this comes after McConnell had a series of public falls over the years. And then, of course, those two instances in which he froze up in public before television cameras. Those occurred in the summer of 2023. It was because of concerns about his age, Kira, that McConnell decided to step down from Republican leadership, which he's now done.
And we'll never forget those two times on live television when he literally froze in the middle of events up there on the Hill.
Ever wonder how constitutional carry affects your right to carry and your right to self-defense? We're hosting a 100% free workshop on this topic in
Ms. Gabbard, do you have any
waiting? I just want to start by saying it's great to be here to meet with some of my former colleagues, like Senator Langford, and I'm looking forward to continuing to engage with the senators on the committee and also in the broader Senate as we go through this process.
How would you respond to some of your fellow members describing you as a national security risk?
I want to address the issue that's in the headlines right now. I stand in full support and wholeheartedly agree with the statements that President Trump has made over these last few days with regards to the developments in Syria. My own views and experiences have been shaped by my multiple deployments and seeing firsthand the cost of war and the threat of Islamist terrorism. It's one of the many reasons why I appreciate President Trump's leadership and his election, where he is fully committed, as he has said over and over, to bringing about an end to wars, demonstrating peace through strength, and putting the national security interests and the safety, security, and freedom of the American people first and foremost.
What's your relationship with
Assad?
What about your relationship with Assad?
Overnight, Manhattan prosecutors filing a murder charge against Luigi Mangione for last week's shooting of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson, gunned down in the streets of Midtown Manhattan as he was visiting for a conference. Police launching a multi-state manhunt. A senior law enforcement official confirming to NBC News that a handwritten note saying in part, "These parasites had it coming," was recovered. The 26-year-old suspect was captured Monday, recognized by an employee at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, 5 days after the murder and 280 miles away. Police say Mangione's identity was not on their radar until the sighting.
He did not have his name prior to today.
Officer Tyler Fry, just 6 months on the job, responded with his partner.
He was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me and my partner and I recognized him immediately.
The arresting officers asking him if he had been in New York City recently.
He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question.
According to the complaint, Mangione initially gave police a fake New Jersey driver's license, the same one police say was used to book a room at a Manhattan hostel. The charging documents also revealing when officers searched his backpack, they found a black 3D printed pistol and silencer. Mangione was born and raised in Maryland, his last known address in Hawaii. The high school valedictorian later graduated from the Ivy League school UPenn in 2020 with a master's degree in computer science. The Mangione family reacting to the news, writing they're shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest and extending their prayers to the Thompson family. The case sparking global interest and some online backlash against the insurance industry. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro speaking out overnight.
I understand people have real frustration with our healthcare system. This killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real hero in this story is the person who called 911.
United Health Group, the parent company to United Healthcare, released a statement overnight saying that they hope this arrest provides at least some relief for family and friends. We also know that he will be in court again for his next scheduled court appearance on December 23rd.
All right, Stephanie Gosk. Steph, thank you.
Hey, thanks for watching. Don't miss the Today Show every weekday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 8 Pacific on our streaming channel, Today All Day. To watch, head to today.com/allday or click the link right here.
These may look like dentures or partials, but in fact, it's some of the newest dental implant technology, and you can get them at Nuvia Dental Implant Center. All the features of original teeth, but with even more benefits. Say goodbye to endless dentist office visits. No more missing or broken teeth. No more struggling to figure out what you can eat. At Nuvia, you can get it all done in only 24 hours. Click the link below.
In 2015, the highest professional award possible.
The award that was bestowed upon him by President Obama was significant. Whether he supported on a personal level or not policy directives, if it came down from the president, he was going to do it to the best of his ability.
Homan continued his work with ICE during Trump's first administration, eventually gaining the title as acting ICE director, supporting then Attorney General Jeff Sessions in 2017 when he announced the zero tolerance policy, a strategy that would prosecute adults for crossing the border illegally and separate them from their children. Amaya was no longer around when this policy went into effect, but has concerns about the way Homan has been labeled the father of family separation.
I remember a very challenging conversation that we had in the Situation Room at the White House about family separation. Tom was one of the loudest voices against family separation, making the analogy to Elian Gonzalez and the seared image of INS agents taking away a child out of a father's arms at gunpoint, saying that if we thought that was bad, wait till the images come out if we were to run an operation like that today.
Over 3,000 children were removed and put into detention facilities or camps during family separation, overwhelming the immigration system.
The people united!
The images creating an uproar.
Americans across this country reacting to images like these, the tents, the detention centers where children separated from their parents are now being held.
The strategy was discontinued after Trump issued an executive order, but the chaos left in its wake created a major hurdle for Homan as he tried to gain Senate confirmation as the official director of ICE. In June 2018, Homan retired. Since then, he's written a memoir, become a Fox News contributor, and joined the Heritage Foundation, contributing to.
Hey, sorry for interrupting. Isn't that annoying? What if I told you there was a way to get rid of ads like this forever?
It is a new hour here on Live Now from Fox, and we do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you. It was being reported by TMZ and now Fox News. We are learning that Jay-Z is accused of raping a 13-year-old girl. That is new in the Diddy lawsuit, and the new allegations are just coming out this evening. Jay-Z is being accused of raping a minor along with Diddy at a MTV VMAs after party back in 2000, according to documents obtained by Fox News Digital tonight. The lawsuit, which was initially filed back in October, was refiled tonight in New York by an anonymous accuser claiming Jay-Z, who's full name is Sean Carter, raped her while Combs and celebrity B watched. So that other celebrity was not named. Initially, the lawsuit stated Combs raped the minor while celebrity A and celebrity B watched. Carter was named as celebrity A in the refiled lawsuit. Representatives for Jay-Z did not immediately respond to Fox News' digital request for comment. Combs and Carter allegedly, quote, took turns assaulting the minor, according to the lawsuit. Many others were present at the after party, but did nothing to stop the assault, it alleges. The 13-year-old girl was dropped off at Radio City Music Hall by a friend as she wanted to attend the MTV Video Music Awards back in 2000, according to the lawsuit. In an attempt to gain entry to the venue, she began approaching limousine drivers waiting outside the celebrity-filled event. One of the limousine drivers she spoke to claimed to work for Diddy, the lawsuit read. He told her that Combs liked younger girls and said that, quote, she fit what Diddy was looking for, not allowing her into the awards, but inviting her to an after party. The 13-year-old, quote, recognized many celebrities upon arrival at the party and was required to sign a non-disclosure agreement. However, she was not given a copy. Combs, who would have been 30 years old at the time, then allegedly attempted to force the girl to perform oral sex on him. He stopped after she hit him in the neck, according to the lawsuit here. So now Jay-Z being accused in this now 24 years ago, raping a 13-year-old alongside Diddy at an after party here. So these are the newest allegations rocking the music world this evening, and we wanted to bring that to your attention all right here on Live Now from Fox. Of course, we will continue to follow this major story as the Diddy saga continues, and now more celebrities getting caught up in it here. These new allegations rocking Hollywood and the music industry as we speak right now.
The man charged with killing a healthcare CEO in Manhattan is facing extradition back to New York. In a chaotic scene before today's extradition hearing, you hear a little of it there. Luigi Mangione shouted toward reporters as police led him into a Pennsylvania courthouse.
And completely out of touch and insult the intelligence of the American people and lived experience.
It's not clear what he's referring to. Late last night, Mangione was officially charged with murdering Brian Thompson in New York City. He's also facing separate charges in Pennsylvania.
The 26-year-old was arrested at a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania. Police there released these photos taken from an officer's body camera. Officer said he began to shake when they asked if he had recently been to New York. New York City's police commissioner told the Today Show this morning, despite getting hundreds of tips called in, his name was not on their radar. Joining us now to break all this down, NBC News law enforcement and intelligence correspondent Tom Winter and NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalos. So, Tom, let's start with you. Mangione, said in court that he will not waive extradition. Explain to us what that means.
So basically, it means that there's going to be now a legal fight in court for him to come back to New York, and they'll have to present evidence as to why he should be removed to New York to face those homicide charges in connection with the death of Brian Thompson. So just in most simplistic terms, that's what it means. He's going to be held without bail pending that. That outburst that you saw, we have a team on the ground. They reviewed the tape. They were actually there when he said it. And what they say he said is, it is, quote, it is completely out of touch and it is excuse me, let me start over. It is completely out of touch and is an insult to the American people in their lived experience. What that is referring to your point, Kate, we don't know. But that's what he said. He was flanked by 7 officers in court, and there were no other outbursts, apparently, according to our team there.
So, Danny, how surprising is it to see, first of all, an extradition court hearing so quickly in a case like this, and then pick up on what Tom was describing, What happens now since he's facing these two separate charges in New York and Pennsylvania?
Yeah, Pennsylvania procedure, extradition law requires that he be brought to a Pennsylvania judge. And really, extradition is governed by the governor himself, Governor Shapiro. Eventually, Governor Shapiro will issue a warrant, an extradition warrant. He'll deliver that, and then he will be transported to the requesting state. He is allowed time to file what's called a habeas petition to challenge the legality of his detention. I can tell you now, he will lose. The law requires that Governor Shapiro turn him over to the requesting state, with one wrinkle that isn't going to happen. In the situation where Pennsylvania itself has its own charges, which it does, lead count, felony 2 forgery, they could, in theory, keep him because they got him first. And the rule is whoever has the guy first can prosecute him. That is never going to happen. Governor Shapiro will certainly turn him over. And strangely enough, he is theoretically entitled to bail, but not if he's charged with a crime that has a life or death penalty. So that's why his bail was denied. But in theory, people in extradition hearings are entitled to bail in Pennsylvania.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
President-elect Trump making his message clear to Americans who didn't vote for him.
I'm going to treat you every bit as well as I have treated the greatest MAGA supporters. There's never been anything like MAGA in the history of this country. These people are so dedicated to making America great again. It's very simple. And I'm going to treat them just the same as I treat MAGA. We're going to treat everybody good. We want success for our country. We want safety for our country.
Our next guest knows all about Trump's messaging. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders served as Donald Trump's White House press secretary and joins us now. So, Governor, your thoughts about that message yesterday in his first interview since winning?
I don't think it should come as a surprise. This is a person who absolutely loves our country. And when he was president for 4 years, everybody was doing better under his leadership. Our economy was strong. Our border was secure. We had respect around the world. And I think you're seeing that already before he even steps into the office. People are already treating him like the president, from world leaders that we saw over the last several days to the business community to elected officials. And that's because, one, people know that their life was better under President Trump than under this past administration. And this is a person who's going to fight for every single American and for every person to do well in this country.
So, Governor, they always say in life, you can always judge someone's character by how they treat people they need nothing from. And in the interim, if you look at the inner cities and how they're beginning to flip and they were more open to his message, would this not be a great time to go to Chicago, go to New York, go to Philadelphia, go to these areas and say, what do you need? How can I help? And that would put pressure on maybe some Democrats in that area, especially House members, that they might need to get something passed?
Absolutely. And you saw glimpses of that from the campaign, the president going into places that don't traditionally vote for Republicans. And he was able to change and move those numbers and bring in new demographic of voter. But I think one of the big things, that's who Donald Trump has always been. He never needed this job. He never needed to be in office in the first place, but our country desperately needed him. We needed somebody who would take on institutions that had long been allowed to have total and absolute control of our country and fight back for people who had not had a voice in a long time. That's why he had so much support from so many different sectors, is because he finally gave a voice to people who felt like they'd been ignored for decades. That's why he won overwhelmingly. And I think it would be great to see him continue to go into a lot of these communities, continue building support, but more important than just building support, show them what he's going to be able to do to make their communities and as a whole, our country infinitely better.
Right. And who's stopping it from happening? Explaining to people that you care. Governor Huckabee Sanders, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon, Sarah.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Over the weekend, President-elect Donald Trump sat down for his first formal interview since winning a second term in the White House. Trump spoke to Meet the Press about his plans for his new administration, doubling down on campaign promises around mass deportations, threatening political rivals, and praising January 6th insurrectionists. Laura Barone Lopez has been following all this and joins us now. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
So he has made clear that he plans to implement mass deportations early in his next administration. What did he say about that and other plans for immigration?
So when it comes to mass deportation, Amna, the president-elect said that he would deport entire families.
I don't want to be breaking up families. So the only way you don't break up the family is you keep them together and you have to send them all back.
Even kids who are here legally?
Well, what you're going to do if they want to stay with the father? Look, we have to have rules and regulations.
According to Pew Research, Amna, that action could impact an estimated 4.4 million U.S. born children under 18 who live with an unauthorized immigrant parent. Now, Trump also said that he wants to end the 156-year-old right under the 14th Amendment to birthright citizenship.
Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive action?
We're going to have to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Now, it's false, Amna, that the U.S. is the only country that has birthright citizenship. Some 36 countries have it as well, including Canada and Mexico. But how would he do this? Trump has said during the campaign trail and during statements that he could go around Congress with an executive action directing agencies to require that at least one parent be a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident for a future child to be able to get automatic citizenship. He would also direct agencies to stop issuing passports and Social Security to people born in the U.S. Many constitutional scholars, though, have said that this would require a constitutional amendment through Congress. And that's the only way this could change. Of course, if he tries to take an executive action, he would face lawsuits, which could then lead to the Supreme Court. Lastly, I'm going to just very quickly, Trump also said that he would allow dreamers, those children who were brought here illegally as minors, to stay in the U.S. But during his first term, he tried to eliminate that program and the Supreme Court stopped him.
He's also previously said that he would pardon the January 6th rioters, those who violently stormed the Capitol back in 2021. What did he say about how quickly he would move on this, and also anything on prosecuting his political rivals, which he's mentioned before?
The president-elect said that on day one, he would be looking to pardon these January 6 rioters, saying that he would act quickly, Amna. And he also accused lawmakers who worked on that House January 6 committee that investigated the insurrection. He said that he thinks that they should be thrown in jail, and he accused them of committing crimes.
Cheney was behind it, and so was Benny Thompson and everybody on that committee. For what they did, honestly, they should go to jail.
So you think Liz Cheney should go to jail?
For what they did.
Everyone on the committee, you think
I think
should
everybody
go to
on anybody that voted in favor.
Are you going to direct your FBI director and your attorney general to send them to jail?
No, not at all. I think that they'll have to look at that, but I'm going to focus on drill, baby, drill.
President-elect Trump said that he would leave it up to his attorney general nominee, Pam Bondi, as well as his FBI director nominee, Kash Patel, to ultimately decide if they want to investigate the people that he was talking about there, or if they want to investigate President Biden or others. But those nominees have made clear, Amna, that they want to investigate the investigators and go after anyone they consider an enemy of the president-elect.
They covered a lot of topics in this interview. What else stood out to you?
The president-elect was asked about medication abortion and whether or not he would restrict it. At first, he said no. And then when pressed on if he would fully commit to not restricting it, he said, quote, things change. Also, his comments on tariffs, Amna, he talking about the broad tariffs that he wants to implement on goods being imported from other countries. He said that he cannot guarantee that Americans will pay more.
Laura, we've talked before. A lot of news organizations have reported on the challenges of interviewing President-elect Trump because of the frequency and the volume of many of the lies he puts forward. It's well documented during the campaign season as well. How did NBC handle it in this interview?
So NBC initially put out an edited interview that added some context. They also released a transcript, and then they ultimately released the entire full unedited interview. But during the interview itself, Amna, there was very little to no fact-checking, very little to no pushback in real time as Donald Trump was repeating falsehoods that he made during the campaign trail, as well as outright lies.
Well, Laura, while we have you, I want to ask you about things on the transition front in the incoming Trump administration. His embattled pick for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, was back on Capitol Hill meeting with senators. What do we know about that?
Pete Hegseth met with Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. She's a veteran. She also sits on the Senate Armed Services Committee. She is a key vote here, Amna, and she said in a statement today that Hegseth, that she is going to work with Hegseth during this process and that she believes he should have a, quote, fair hearing based on truth, not anonymous sources, referring there to the sexual assault allegation that Hegseth faced in 2017, as well as the multiple reports that detail intoxication across his jobs. That is the biggest sign to date, Amna, that Senator Ernst is potentially moving closer to supporting Hegseth. And that's a welcome sign for Trump's team because they were really looking to her, hoping that she would back him because they believe other senators will follow her.
There's news on another nomination front. Today, more than 75 Nobel laureates signed a letter urging senators not to confirm Trump's pick to lead the Department of Health and Human Services. That is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. What should we know about that letter?
So the laureates say that Kennedy has, quote, a lack of credentials across science, medicine, as well as administration. And they warn in the letter that Kennedy, quote, would put the public's health in jeopardy and undermine America's global leadership in health sciences. And they specifically cite his opposition to vaccines like the measles and polio vaccines. They also cite the conspiracy theories he's promoted on successful treatment for AIDS and other diseases. Now, the laureates who signed on to this, Amna, include a cancer researcher, Harold Varmus, Eric Kandel, who is a pioneer in cognitive neuroscience, as well as Carol Greidner, a famous molecular biologist.
All right, that is our White House correspondent, Laura Barone Lopez, covering it all. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you.
Tonight, with Syria convulsed in revolutionary chaos, its neighbor Israel taking decisive action. Israeli warplanes carrying out strikes across the country, leaving this airbase near Damascus in flames, according to the Syrian Observatory for Human Rights. The target, Israel says, military sites, including the Assad regime's stockpiles of chemical and biological weapons, which it fears could fall into the hands of extremists.
The only interest we have is the security of Israel and its citizens.
Bashar al-Assad, Syria's toppled dictator, used chemical weapons against his own people during 13 bloody years of civil war. President Obama threatened strikes in response.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
But didn't follow through. While President Trump mounted 2 waves of attacks during his first term. Israeli forces are also moving in on the ground, first capturing a buffer zone between Syria and the Israeli-controlled Golan Heights, and then edging troops further into Syria itself.
There was never any love lost between Israel and the Assad regime, but for 50 years, this was Israel's quietest border, and the Israeli government is determined to try to keep it that way.
Syrians fear Israel is taking advantage of their weakness to capture territory. Israel annexed the Golan after its military victory against its Arab neighbors in the 1967 war. But Israel today insisting its aim only to prevent chaos in Syria spilling over.
I emphasize it is a very limited and temporary step we took from security reasons.
The state of Israel and rebel-led Syria now uneasy new neighbors.
And Raf Sanchez joins us now from Tel Aviv. Raf, do we have any sense of the rebels' attitude towards the state of Israel?
So, Ellison, the main rebel group, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, known as HTS, is a Sunni Islamist group. It has its origins in al-Qaeda. That is not an ideological profile that is friendly to Israel, to say the least. On top of that, you have the leader of that group, who is probably the single most powerful man in Syria right now. His family is originally from the Golan Heights. They were displaced by Israeli forces in 1967. That's why he goes by the pseudonym, the nom de guerre, al-Jolani, which literally means in Arabic, from the Golan. So he has personal animus or reasons for personal animus towards Israel. all of that said, HTS has been very eager to telegraph moderation to the world. They have not been making threats towards Israel. They do seem more interested in domestic governance inside of Syria rather than international jihad outside of it. And there is this irony here that Israel and the rebels share enemies, Iran, Hezbollah. And part of the reason the rebels were successful in overthrowing Assad is that Israel had done so much damage to both Iran and Hezbollah over the last year or so. Allison.
And Raf, when you're speaking with your sources in the region, what do they and other experts think the fall of Assad could mean for the broader conflict in the Middle East?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So big picture, it is clear this is a major blow to Iran. Syria was a key part of Iran's chain that linked them with Hezbollah on the Mediterranean. Their ability to project power throughout the region pretty severely limited now that Syria has been overtaken by the rebels. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel was actually at a press conference earlier today. He was making the argument that this leaves Hamas in Gaza more isolated because that is one more anti-Israel power in the Assad regime that has fallen away. And he is trying to make the case that this might make Hamas more open towards some kind of deal to release the hostages and to end the war. Ellison.
Raf Sanchez in Tel Aviv, thank you.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
These mushrooms make you feel better. They increase focus and energy while keeping you calm and stress-free. Plus, they cut down on bloat and heal your gut. Wait, and they taste good? Someone should make a coffee out of this stuff. Rise. Feel better.
Get the people you care about the great gifts they deserve today. Then pay over time at Aaron's. Rent to own the furniture, appliances, or the tech they'll love with low, budget-friendly payments. In-store and at Aaron's.com.
And we're following more breaking news on Capitol Hill. The Republican-led House Task Force has just released its final report on the first assassination attempt on President-elect Trump this past summer. Let's get right to NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ali Vitale. So, Ali, we just got this report. What does it reveal?
Kate, this is after months of investigation by a bipartisan task force here on Capitol Hill. They've come away with a few dozen recommendations, both for the Secret Service and then also other things that the legislative branch, which is Congress, can undertake in the future when it comes to the Secret Service and the people that it protects. Some of these recommendations are not going to be shocking, especially if you listen to any of the explanations around what happened both at the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, but also the attempted assassination at one of Trump's golf courses down in West Palm Beach, Florida. This task force was investigating both of those events, but of course they treated Butler, Pennsylvania differently, given the fact that it was an instance where the president, or former president rather, of the United States was actually shot at. And some of the recommendations that they make include things like, going forward, the Secret Service should make sure that all entities involved with the planning of a security for an event should be present when they go through those plans. They also recommend that Secret Service should record some of their communications. But then there are some larger questions that are posed in this report where they ask if the Secret Service should remain housed under the U.S. Homeland Security Agency. Certainly that would be a change in really who commands the Secret Service from the top down. But then there are also bigger questions around how they plan things and the way that Congress is able to give them more funding. There are certainly questions about if the Secret Service not just has enough money to operate, but also has enough money to provide future hiring and really generate more manpower so that when they are stretched thin, much like they were last summer, they are able to rise to meet that challenge. But Kate, you'll remember that one of the challenges the Secret Service was experiencing during the waning months of this year was the fact that they're responsible for protecting not just the president and former presidents, but also leaders who are coming to the United States. That's also a question that this task force poses. Should that be the job of the Secret Service?
A lot in there. Ali Vitale, thank you for that.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
The Supreme Court today ruling unanimously upholding the Department of Homeland Security's discretion to revoke visas at any time for any reason and without review of a judge. The ruling could have a major impact on future immigration cases as President-elect Trump prepares for a crackdown on undocumented migrants. ABC News senior Washington reporter Devin Dwyer has more for us. Devin.
Kana, the question the Supreme Court considered in this case is whether the Department of Homeland Security has full discretion to revoke the visa or legal status of any immigrant in this country for any reason without review by a judge. And the Supreme Court, in the first decision it's handed down this term, said unanimously, yes, it does. It was an opinion written by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, 9-0. The Supreme Court said, in fact, that immigration officials in the federal government have broad authority to revoke legal status of anyone who it finds evidence of having violated the law. This was a case involving a U.S. citizen with 3 children who was applying for citizenship for her spouse, a Palestinian national. DHS had originally approved his visa to get a green card, but once it was approved 2 years later, officials during a background interview learned that this man in a previous marriage had attempted to evade U.S. immigration laws through a sham marriage. That's when DHS revoked the green card. That Palestinian national was denied access to the United States. This appeal followed, but today the Supreme Court said, in fact, DHS has that authority. They can't be reviewed by a judge. And this decision, again, reaffirms to the incoming Trump administration the power now to execute on these revocations of immigration status. Kana?
All right, Devin Dwyer, our thanks to you.
Nuvia makes it really easy for patients. They come in, they'll, meet some wonderful people who will treat them well. They'll get to have a say in designing their teeth. You'll pick the shape, you'll pick the shade. We'll guide you if you don't know. We'll help you get there. We'll make the design. You go in for surgery. Surgical team is amazing. You're in good hands. You're going to be taken care of. We'll make sure that your teeth are perfectly designed, and the lab actually works overnight. They work really hard to make sure that you get your permanent teeth in 24 hours. So they will be there all night making your teeth beautiful, and the next day you will get your permanent set of teeth. And I can't wait to see you smile with them.
From embattled cabinet picks to controversial policies, the Democrat-led Senate Judiciary Committee is also holding a hearing right now about the potential consequences of President-elect Trump's mass deportation plan. That hearing comes as Trump recently re-upped his vow to deport millions of undocumented immigrants on day one of his upcoming administration. Lawmakers warning that Trump's plan is unfair to immigrants who have been working towards citizenship and that the American people will pay for these extremist policies.
Over 4.8 million people have been here for 25 years or more, with no path to permanent legal status, no line for them to stand in. Most undocumented immigrants have spent decades living, working, and putting down roots, all at constant risk of deportation. The president-elect's mass deportation plans would crash the American economy, break up families, and take a hammer to the foundations of our society by deporting nearly 4% of the entire U.S. population.
So here's what I would say. I think we need to be tough, compassionate, but end this crap. If you're trying to poison America, you're a drug cartel, your days are numbered. We're coming after you, hopefully working with Mexico. If you've had your full day in court and you lost, it's time for you to go and try to do it right.
I'm Maria Villarreal, covers immigration for us. So, Maria, both Democrats and Republicans have said they believe undocumented immigrants who have criminal records should be deported. So where's the disconnect on messaging here?
Kira, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all about the messaging. And it's really interesting because you can actually hear it in Senator Lindsey Graham's conversation point that he just made right now. I mean, he didn't say all immigrants, right, need to be deported. He was very specific in talking about people who have, one, come here and committed crimes, and then two, are in the queue for deportation. I think what has happened is both sides of this agree that the American people have spoken. We saw it, in the election in November. They obviously want change when it comes to our immigration system. I think the question is, how exactly is that going to get done? And more importantly, who is going to go first? I think you're going to hear some very strong opinions from Republicans talking about everybody needs to go because we need to put Americans first. And then on the flip side of it, you're going to hear Democrats talking about a more humanitarian approach that creates pathways to citizenship. Again, all in the verbiage of how we put this together. But if you talk to everyday Americans, they say, listen, we just want the problem fixed, get it done. And that will eventually fall on Congress.
So you heard what that one expert witness said. There's a real concern that Trump's deportation plan will crash the economy. How could that happen? And is there any way to avoid that?
Some really interesting information came out of that Senate hearing. We do want to point out, obviously, these are conversations that are being had ahead of what might happen in January, but we still don't know the details of what the immigration plan is going to entail when it comes to the new Trump administration. That being said, we heard experts today talk about a couple of things that were really important. One, the impact potentially to the military. There's been a lot of conversation points, especially from the border czar, Tom Homan, talking about using the military to help in this immigration reform, this plan of mass deportation. He made it very clear the only way they can do that is with the military's help. But when we listen to this retired general talk about the military and their role to protect Americans as a whole, he talked about the military taking a hit if they were having to do this work at the border. He says, listen, we're not trained for that. Also, the cost of this, right? We're talking about putting an immigration plan in place that some experts are saying could take over $900 billion just to deport one person. The average cost is $24,000. So we're talking about the cost of the plan itself. And then on the backside, the cost of moving all of these people out of the country and the impact that could make to our own economy. Kira?
Maria Villarreal, appreciate your reporting.
Listen, you want to skip this ad. I would too. But what if I told you there's a skip ads for everybody?
It's called Pi, and if that sounds familiar to you, it's probably because you've seen their ads everywhere. It's an ad blocker that works on Twitch, YouTube, Amazon, and everywhere else you go on Chrome. And if that seems too good to be true, it's not. Over 500,000 people have downloaded it in just the past few months. It's available for free on the Chrome store right now, yet you're still watching this ad like an absolute doofus. Incredible. Plus, if you opt in, Pi will actually pay you money to see ads. Crazy, right? Good luck finding another ad blocker out there that does that. But don't take my word for it. Trust the hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews. So what are you doing? Get Pi right now and say goodbye to ads forever.
The leader of the rebel group that toppled Syrian leader Bashar al-Assad's regime is vowing to hold Assad's henchmen accountable. This is our James Longman got an inside look at one of Assad's presidential palaces in Damascus, also known to Syrians as the People's Palace.
This is what remains of the ballroom. You can see it's been completely blown out. Fire has completely destroyed it. You can see chandeliers just sort of encrusted down there on the floor among the glass and all the debris. If I show you through some of the rest of this place, it is huge. It'd be impossible to show you around the whole thing. It's like 5-6 stories, all clad in expensive stones and marbles. There is this rather beautiful courtyard right in the middle. I get the sense that perhaps there was a renovation underway here. Assad preparing perhaps for a long future as the president of Syria. This is the courtyard outside. Rather lovely. This is just one part. I mean, it's quite difficult to explain just how vast this building is. Upstairs, just room after room after room, bedrooms set up for guests, expensive furniture now abandoned. This room, though, looks like someone reasonably important used to use it because it's huge. And you can see all the discarded documents, papers of state perhaps, lying on this desk, and it's been ransacked. Clearly this is what you see during a revolution.
Welcome back to America Decides. Congress finds itself in two different work worlds. On the Senate side, there is the work world of the incoming Trump administration, looking at those designated to fill cabinet positions and meeting them on Capitol Hill. On the House side and on the Senate side, there's the lame duck Congress world, the work of here and now. And a big part of that is a race to avert a government shutdown right before the holidays. Funding is currently on track to run out just 10 days from today. But here's the good news. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, on both sides of the Capitol, say at this point, they're still confident the government will remain open past that deadline of December 20th. Nicole Killion joins us now from Capitol Hill. Nicole, what is the basis and reliability of that confidence?
Well, I would say nobody's sounding the alarm bells just yet. And certainly Congress has a lot to chew on between President-elect Trump's nominees being here on Capitol Hill. Of course, there's also the defense authorization package that they're trying to get through. And then, of course, government funding, which is critical. But that being said, negotiations continue. And as you mentioned, funding does run out December 20th. You know, Speaker Johnson up to this point has indicated that he supports potentially some type of extension into early next year, maybe until March. There are others who would prefer something more long-term than that. Leader Schumer indicating as much to reporters earlier this afternoon. There's also the issue of whether or not disaster aid will be included in this. President Biden, of course, had submitted a request to Congress for upwards of $100 billion to deal with relief from hurricanes Milton and Helene, as well as other severe storms and natural disasters that have occurred in different parts of the country over the last several months. So all of that is still under discussion, but there is hope that there can be some type of resolution, certainly before December 20th.
And on the House side, Republicans would have to rely, would they not, Nicole, at least on some support from Democrats?
Well, possibly, because there are certainly more hardline members, particularly members of the House Freedom Caucus, who feel like there should not be another single cent spent, particularly with respect to this issue of disaster relief. But that being said, we know that that is a key priority for the outgoing administration, and certainly for many members of Congress whose districts were impacted, particularly by those very intense storms, Helene in particular. So that being said, many lawmakers do see it as a priority. Again, it's a matter of will they sign off on that full amount or try to cut it down.
And also quickly, Nicole, there's this question, and you mentioned it, how long this spending authority would last. If you just take it into March, Republicans and the incoming Trump administration would have to deal with that right away with very tight margins.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, obviously, the House will lose a number of members in the new year, the Republican majority, in terms of people like former Congressman Matt Gaetz, GOP Conference Chair Lee Stefanik, Congressman Mike Waltz. But that being said, I think the Speaker feels relatively confident that he can kind of sew this together in the best way possible. You know, he actually was the one who had pushed for that December 20th deadline because he didn't want some kind of Christmas omnibus where lawmakers are here up until the holidays. So he seems pretty committed to try to reach some type of resolution over the next couple of days.
And Nicole, there was an episode revolving around Senator McConnell today. Catch us up on that.
Yeah, well, Leader McConnell suffered a fall as he was leaving the Republican Senate GOP lunch earlier today. A spokesperson confirms that he did sustain a cut to his face and also sprained his wrist. However, he has been cleared to resume his schedule, you know, in terms of talking to other Senate leaders like John Thune. He said that Leader McConnell is fine. We also talked to John Barrasso, the GOP conference chair, who was present when this happened. And he said that Leader McConnell seemed okay, was well within his faculties. But for many of those who are aware of Leader McConnell's health challenges, this isn't the first time that he has fallen. Of course, he is a polio survivor, so that at times has affected his gait. But at least for now, Major, it seems like he's all right.
With all the latest information from Capitol Hill, Nicole Killion, as always, we thank you.
Thank you for calling Penny, PA's official health insurance marketplace. How can I help?
So I hear there's open enrollment and I really need coverage, but I don't know where to look.
Penny.com is the right place to start.
But I'm worried about the cost of coverage and my prescriptions.
We hear that a lot. Penny has high-quality health plans at the lowest cost.
What a relief to be covered.
You're worth protecting. Enroll by December 15th for January 1st coverage. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Turning now to Pennsylvania, the suspect charged in the murder of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was denied bail at a hearing today. Luigi Mangione is now fighting extradition to New York. During his appearance today, shackled and shouting, this is what he had to say as he entered the courthouse.
Completely out of touch and an insult to the intelligence of the American people.
Our Anna Schechter has been following the case and joins us now. Anna, it was a bit hard to hear all of that, but there were other things said and mannerisms and attitudes struck by this defendant to be charged. What did we learn today?
That's right, Major. It was quite a dramatic day in court today. You just saw him there shouting something about it being an insult to the intelligence of the American people. Then inside court, he was acting erratically. He raised his eyebrows, defiant, and at one point started speaking to the judge. His lawyer had to tell him to please be quiet. He was denied bail and was angry about that, and he is refusing to make this extradition easy. He is fighting it. And so what happens now is the Manhattan District Attorney, Alvin Bragg, who has already filed murder charges, he is now seeking a warrant from Governor Kathy Hochul of New York to facilitate this extradition. She has to file that with Pennsylvania Governor Shapiro. Now, there is a lot of momentum to get this done, so I imagine that she will do this quickly. But this could delay this for several weeks because paperwork has to be filed. I think prosecutors and investigators were hoping that he would not fight this and therefore facilitate a quicker transfer from Pennsylvania to New York so they can get this going and have this wheel continue to move, because they do believe that they have the right man. They have the person who pulled the trigger.
And as you know better than most, there's been tremendous speculation about a possible motive. Let's get the speculation off the screen and move to what investigators believe they have learned that is provable thus far.
At this point, investigators are homing in on the 3-page handwritten document that they recovered on his person, in which he describes grievances against corporate America, particularly citing United Healthcare as one of the most profitable companies in the U.S. And he complained about companies like United Healthcare putting profit over patient care. This jives with what they found at the crime scene. The bullets and the casings had the words deny, delay, depose. So very early on Wednesday, by about noon, they had recovered those bullets and they saw those words written there. So they knew that it had something to do with a grievance about how insurance companies handle claims. What's surprising here is you have an individual who had means. It was not that he was personally in some fight over trying to get coverage. It was more of his being inspired by the Unabomber, for example. He's written a positive review about Ted Kaczynski's book online, and he had a presence online kind of glorifying that kind of a worldview. And in that handwritten letter that he had on his person, essentially justifying his actions, he said something to the effect of, I'm the only one to take this seriously in an honest way, essentially trying to justify taking matters as he perceived them into his own hands. And prosecutors will say committed this heinous crime in cold blood.
Anna, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro, made some comments last night in regards to this idea that there might have been some justification in the grievances expressed by this defendant. Let's take a listen.
In a civil society, we are all less safe when ideologues engage in vigilante justice. In some dark corners, this killer is being hailed as a hero. Hear me on this. He is no hero. The real hero in this story is the person who called 911 at McDonald's this morning.
To that last point that the governor made, Anna, it's been something I've seen today that those who were at that McDonald's are fearful now because they're getting some sort of blowback for participating in the discovery of this defendant and assisting authorities.
That's right. The very people who, they are the reason why we are getting closer to buttoning this case up. They are the reason that the perpetrator was caught, and yet they themselves are receiving death threats. It's been this backward thing that's bubbled up online where, yes, you have a CEO with a very high compensation package. Also, yes, he was murdered in cold blood. And so what Shapiro was doing is tamping down on this sort of grotesque perversion of the facts as if it would be the victim's fault, which of course it wasn't.
Anna Schechter, thank you so very much.
We would try and take her on walks and she would refuse to go. It was a chore to get her to go outside and even use the bathroom. We tried the farmer's dog, and within a week, she's doing zoomies around the backyard after going on a 3-mile hike. We coined the phrase that she was drinking from the fountain of youth. Pippa is a Great Dane. We call her the queen of the house. She constantly had an upset stomach, loose stool all over the sidewalk. She would have accidents inside the house. She feels bad and you feel bad. It was a nightmare. Every other month, we were either contacting the vet or putting her on a probiotic. Since starting the farmer's dog, we haven't had any loose stool or throwing up or any of the things that we saw all the time before with her. And to see her hiking and exercising and swimming just makes you feel so good. Like she does have a lot of good years left in her. The farmer's dog is the answer that we never knew we needed.
Saving for the car of your dreams is good. The car of your dreams, saving you thanks to automatic.
Some of President-elect Trump's most controversial picks are back on Capitol Hill today, looking to shore up support from Republican senators who will help decide whether they're confirmed. They include Trump's potential defense secretary pick, Pete Hegseth, FBI director pick, Kash Patel, and director of national intelligence pick, Tulsi Gabbard. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott McFarlane is following this and everything else on Capitol Hill. Scott, good to see you. Senator Lindsey Graham said himself today, Hegseth is much better off than he was last week. Why?
Well, he's making up ground with some of the senators who expressed reservations about those allegations he faced about alcohol abuse and sexual misconduct. Hegseth has denied those accusations from the start. But in a second meeting with Joni Ernst, herself a former service member, herself a former victim of sexual misconduct, he seems to have made progress with her. She issued this written statement saying she now will support Hegseth through the process. That stops short of saying she'll vote for him, but it's a better indication of the trajectory Hegseth is on. And Lindsey Graham a few moments ago told me that so long as these allegations are anonymous, they should not and will not be a deal breaker or a blockade to stop this confirmation. And Senator Ernst said something quite similar, Lindsey, indicating these senators want to put a name or a face to these allegations if those allegations are going to be a detriment or some type of off-ramp for this confirmation.
Of the other choices we mentioned, does it seem like any of them face difficulty getting through the Senate?
So far, there's been no announced opposition among Republicans to any of these current slate of Trump nominees who are making the rounds on the Hill. Kash Patel for FBI director, him being one of them. Tulsi Gabbard to be the head of national intelligence. Linda McMahon, the WWE executive, is here courting support for her role as the Secretary of Education. But there's a long road between now and confirmation hearings. There are 5 to 6 weeks until any of these hearings begin. And Democrats have not yet started to galvanize their opposition. So right now, these would-be nominees, these would-be cabinet members, are really just meeting with the Republicans and the Trump allied Republicans, those who are always in lockstep with President-elect Trump. Let's see where this goes when they start meeting with moderates or Democrats. And to that end, Lindsey, CBS News has learned that Pete Hegseth has a stop late this afternoon with one of those moderates, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. And quickly, Lindsay, let me give a listen to what Pete Hegseth said coming out of that meeting today when he talked about the increasing support from Joni Ernst.
Well, we're grateful that she said she's going to support us through that process, and that's what we talked about. And it's been substantive and meaningful. And her background is significant on all these issues, and I welcome it.
And Lindsay, let me give you one contrast between Pete Hegseth and everybody else up here courting votes. He actually answers questions. So he seems to stay on message, but he's actually taking the questions and responding to them. Most of what we're yelling at the others who come across the hallways is going in one ear and out the other.
Who wouldn't want to respond to Scott MacFarlane? Thank you so much.
So you want to play guitar, but you think to yourself, I could never do that. And you think learning is boring.
Okay, so it's happened again. We're just learning about another possible break-in at another NFL star's home. This time, it's Cincinnati Bengals quarterback Joe Burrow's house. That, according to the sheriff's office in Hamilton County, Ohio. Burrow wasn't home. He was on Monday Night Football, playing against the Cowboys in Dallas. But according to the incident report obtained by NBC News, an employee of Burrow's called 911 last night when she saw a bedroom window shattered and the room ransacked, along with items missing. So take a listen to a bit of this 911 call.
Someone is trying to break into the house right now. My daughter is there. This is Joe Burrow's house. She is staying there. He's at the football game. She's wondering what she should do, if she should be hiding or if she should be going outside.
It's the latest incident in a string of robberies targeting high-profile NFL stars. Kansas City players Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce both had their homes invaded last month. The NFL has issued a security alert to teams and the players' union. We've reached out to Burrow, the Bengals, and the NFL for any information, and they have not yet responded to our request for comment. Let's get to NBC's man on the story at this very hour. Marquise Francis is there. And Marquise, what do you know about what's been going on here?
Yeah, well, Tom, we're learning exactly details about what took place at Burrow's home last night, which is located in Anderson Township, a neighborhood just outside of Cincinnati. And of course, according to that police incident report, we know that a woman called at 9:14. We just heard a bit of that audio, and she said her daughter was in the home, and she thought an intruder was in there, and she wasn't sure what to do. Should she hide? Should she leave? And then shortly after, that young woman did call police. And she also said she believed someone was in there because there was a bedroom window that had been shattered and that ransacked room. And while she was on the call with the dispatcher heard another person, and they confirmed that it was someone who was working security. And according to police, they believe this incident happened shortly after 8 p.m. And whoever did enter the home entered through a first floor bedroom and did so without leaving fingerprints. And of course, this is all under investigation. And as you mentioned, this is just the latest string in many incidents that have happened to NFL players. And this one happened when Joe Burrow was facing off against the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington, Texas. So whoever allegedly broke into the house knew Joe Burrow would not be home. Tom?
Yeah. You know, what I'm wondering is whether police and sheriff's departments nationwide who have these high-profile NFL players living in their jurisdictions might just start posting a patrol car outside of their homes whenever they're playing. And I guess we simply don't know if these incidents are connected, right? If it's the same person or persons hitting all NFL players.
Yeah, we certainly don't know, but the FBI is considering this a transnational burglary spree. And so they're considering this to be a targeted attack on these high-profile NFL athletes. And in that memo, as you mentioned at the top, the NFL has told their players to do such things as get security cameras, not leave valuable items out and about, and also not post their real-time location so that would-be burglars could find out where they are and if they're not home. And so right now, we are not sure exactly who's doing it, but the NFL and the FBI believe these are all connected.
Like I said, I would assume a lot of police departments nationwide are going to start posting units outside of these high-profile players' homes. Marquise Francis, thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
My dad has been struggling for a really long time. I'm sorry.
Her dad traveled over 3 hours.
And welcome back. TikTok is now calling on the Supreme Court to review legislation that would ban the app in the U.S. unless its China-based parent company, ByteDance, sells it by next month. A federal appeals court upheld the legislation last week. In her exclusive interview, my Meet the Press colleague Kristen Welker asked President-elect Donald Trump, a one-time antagonist turned enthusiast of the app, about his view of the ruling.
This week, a federal court upheld a law that could result in TikTok being banned. You said you're going to rescue TikTok when you get into office. Are you going to take steps to protect it?
Yeah, and as you know, I use TikTok very successfully in my campaign. I have a man named TikTok Jack. He was very effective, obviously, because I won youth by 30%. All Republicans lose youth. I don't know why. Maybe it's changing. And last time we were down 30% with youth. This time we're up 35% with youth. And I use TikTok, so I can't really, I can't totally hate it. It was very effective. But I will say this, if you do that, something else is going to come along and take its place. And maybe that's not fair. What they're doing, and really what the judge actually said was that you can't have Chinese companies. In other words, they have the right to ban it if you can prove that the Chinese companies own it. That's what the judge actually
So are you going to try to protect TikTok just very quick once you're in office?
I'm going to try and make it so that other companies don't become an even bigger monopoly.
Joining me now is Illinois Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamurthy. He is the ranking member on the House Select Committee on the Chinese Communist Party and a member of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman, we appreciate you making time today.
Sure thing. Thank you so much for having me.
I do want to start with last week's appeals court decision on TikTok. I know you applauded that ruling, but TikTok, we know, is now appealing to the Supreme Court and has added Donald Trump's former Solicitor General to its legal team, anticipating that there will be a Supreme Court fight here. What's your read on this moment, what we've heard to this point? What does it tell you about potentially a fight ahead?
I think it's time for ByteDance and TikTok to accept the law. It's time to sell. And I saw just today, Frank McCourt has put together a group to purchase TikTok USA from ByteDance. I know there are numerous others that would be interested. And Donald Trump should help to, bring this deal together. It'd be the deal of the year if he could make that happen. I think that's the way to proceed. This law has been upheld now in the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals. I expect it will be upheld in the Supreme Court. And now all three branches of government has basically given ByteDance the instruction, it's time to sell.
Well, you heard the president-elect there tell Kristen his thoughts about TikTok, right? Trump said that he said on the trail that he's going to save TikTok. Kristen asked him about that. Is there something he can do along those lines? What do you think that might look like?
Sure. He should encourage bidders. He should encourage ByteDance to sell, to accept the law. We can't have a CCP-controlled app with the CCP having access to millions and millions of Americans' data. This court made it very clear that this particular law puts in place kind of a situation that minimizes interference with the First Amendment, allows TikTok to survive, but at the same time mitigates against the threat, which is the CCP's control of the app.
I want to stay on the topic of China for a moment here, if we can. According to Reuters, there are Chinese officials who've signaled that they are ready to spend money and to go into debt to try to counteract any U.S. tariffs that might come their way in the Trump administration. If the president-elect raises tariffs on China, what do you expect? Are they going to take that lightly? What sort of escalation would you anticipate, and what might it look like from China?
Well, I think that the strategic tariffing that has been adopted in the first Trump administration and then the Biden administration and now adopted in Congress makes sense. That means where there's economic aggression, where there are economic and security concerns, or there's dumping or other types of violations of trade rules, we should level the playing field. However, across the board tariffs on all Chinese stuff, or for that matter, all other countries' goods, could invite retaliatory tariffs, and then we have a full-blown trade war and inflation, not to mention cleaving the relationships that we have with friends, partners, and allies that are necessary for countering aggression by the CCP.
Well, let's move on here. We know this morning that we got this IG report that outlined how the DOJ under former President Trump at the time, obtained text messages and phone logs from members of Congress, from your staffers, from members of the media as well during his first term in office. What's your reaction to that report? And do you think this sort of previews what could happen in a second term?
It does. And also it basically tells you about kind of the excesses associated with leak investigations. Leak investigations are a way, potentially, if they're abused, to basically go after journalists and then to go after their sources. And that's apparently what might have happened here. Not only did they fail to notify journalists whose information had been seized or whose records had been seized, they'd failed to notify the Attorney General. I'm talking about the DOJ prosecutors who initiated these investigations. And then they actually went after sources. And I think, ironically, Kash Patel might have been potentially caught up in that whole investigation that might have gone too far.
While I have you, I do want to ask you about some of what's been happening inside your party there on the Hill. You're on the House Oversight Committee. There's this race now between Jerry Connolly of Virginia and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York for the ranking member slot there. I see you smiling. Who do you think should get it?
I think you're trying to get me into trouble. I'm listening to everyone who is entering this race. They are both my friends and colleagues. I respect them greatly, and I look forward to hearing their vision for how they both conduct oversight with regard to a future Trump administration, but also how we work together on certain issues with the other side, such as on PBM reform, which has commanded a lot of support on both sides of the aisle and needs to move forward.
I want to ask you generally, though. I mean, there's one member of the House Democratic Caucus who told us that if Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wins, it's the end of seniority. Do you agree with that? Do you think that the process needs some shaking up? Do you think we've talked so much about during the campaign that we just ended about age being a factor in some of these sorts of decisions about who should be leading and passing the baton to the next generation was something we heard from Vice President Harris. What's your thought about that?
I think that age is a factor, but it's not the deciding factor in terms of who we as Democrats select as our leadership. You see that up and down the line from Hakeem Jeffries to others. I think that the most important thing is who's going to be most effective, whose vision will resonate with the caucus, and how do we move forward in a way that reflects the reality of the election, and we do the business of the American people. That's what is most important. How do we solve problems for our constituents and the American people going forward?
Would you like to see the Democratic Party do more to cultivate next generations of leadership, or do you feel like enough is being done in that regard?
I think we can always do more, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen going forward. And I think that our caucus is blessed with, I guess, a cornucopia of wonderful leaders of all ages.
All right. We will leave it there for now. Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi, we appreciate your time today. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Shalom, everyone. My name is Erez Soref. I'm the president of One for Israel. I'm sure many of you have seen news about Israel and the Middle East over the past year. It's been a very rough year to live here. There is an immeasurable amount of suffering going on in Israel, the Gaza Strip, and throughout the Middle East. Our team is pulling together resources and mobilizing aid packages to all people in need, especially displaced families in this difficult reality. With all this bad news, the good news of the gospel is being proclaimed and hearts are turning to Jesus in amazing ways. During this time of war, our gospel outreach channel in Hebrew has more than quadrupled, with more than 444,000 subscribers on YouTube in Israel alone. Our channel, Proclaiming the Gospel, is one of the top channels on YouTube, eclipsing commercial news and popular Israeli artists. We're seeing between 40 and 60,000 people joining our channel each month, and our online outreach team is sending New Testaments and answering seekers daily. Our Arabic outreach team is making a powerful impact in Gaza and the Middle East, proclaiming the gospel from our very studios here in Jerusalem. We're in the midst of a great awakening in Israel like we've never seen before since the book of Acts. As war rages in the Middle East, we're finding peace following the Prince of Peace. As Arab and Jewish followers of Jesus study together and pray as one in the one and only Hebrew-speaking Bible college in the world right here. We thank you for standing with the suffering people throughout Israel and the Middle East during this time. And we just want to ask that you will continue to pray for the gospel to go forth. One for Israel also provides a lot of resources that can be helpful to you, from a weekly podcast to online courses to other downloadable resources. Please make use of it. Visit us at oneforisrael.org. From Jerusalem, shalom and God bless you.
You've promised to end birthright citizenship on day one. Is that still your plan?
Yeah, absolutely.
The 14th Amendment, though, says that, quote, all persons born in the United States are citizens. Can you get around the 14th Amendment with an executive
we're going to have
action?
to get a change. We'll maybe have to go back to the people, but we have to end it. We're the only country that has it.
Through an executive action?
You know, we're the only country that has it. Do you know, if somebody sets a foot, just a foot, 1 foot, you don't need to, on our land, congratulations, you are now a citizen of the United States of America. Yes, we're going to end that because it's ridiculous.
That was President Trump sitting down with NBC's Meet the Press host, Kristen Welker. President Trump on day one pledges to reform and redefine what exactly natural born and citizenship looks like in the United States. In the 14th Amendment, it is clear anyone born on U.S. soil or to an American-born mother is by birthright a United States citizen. To change that would require an amendment. President Trump, in his conviction to clamp down on some of the root factors of mass illegal migration, signaled to Welker he wants a deal done on Dreamers with Democrats as well, and to suspend birthright citizenship once and for all. But reforming, again, the 14th Amendment poses several challenges, the least of which is a constitutional amendment, but there's some political and practical ramifications to all of this. Joining us for a reaction, our friend Vish Burra, founder and president of Basilisk Strategies, former Capitol Hill staffer, longtime executive committee member of the New York Young Republican Club. Vish, welcome back.
Thanks for having me, Chanel.
What did you think of Trump's proposal here to basically push for an amendment?
Well, look, first of all, I think Kristen Welker was highly dishonest in the way she even described the language of the amendment. She mentioned the first part of that, but doesn't mention the second part of what that statute actually states, and that's a key part, saying in subject to the jurisdiction of. And so I think that again, President Trump is trying to address a very serious problem and trying to cut out an incentive that a lot of illegal immigrants and immigrants from all over the world, even tourists, take advantage of. You know, there's a lot of these sort of like tourist babies where women that are pregnant from all over the world come here to have their babies to take advantage of America's rule around birthright citizenship. So we're one of the only countries in the world, if not the only country in the world, that does what's called de jure citizenship, as opposed to de sanguis. I think it's basically by blood. So, you know, we need to be able to address this issue and to be able to get some kind of reform on the books. And I'm glad President Trump is trailblazing on that and is not afraid to talk about what is a very difficult subject.
Well, as he raises in this interview, rightly so, the United States is actually a trailblazer in all of this. The rest of the world does not adopt birthright citizenship. They don't adopt citizenship as a right just because you were born on that soil. And this goes back to comparisons with almost all European nations. And no one has quite come back with a retort to all of that.
That's right, and it's because it's a fundamental question. I think that the founders and the original authors of the amendment had a high-minded ideal of what American citizenship could be and how it should be, but I don't think that they could ever predict that there's this kind of super interconnected world where people can just take advantage of our system rather easily through very simple things like a visa overstay or just a simple trip that's planned properly from your home country to America. And then obviously others who immigrate here illegally and then have the child as a way to make sure that they can't be sent back to wherever they're from. So again, I think that President Trump is trailblazing on that issue and is making sure that a proper conversation is had and a solution that is actually smart and well thought out can be presented, whether it's by him or somebody in his orbit or somebody around that can present some valid options and some alternatives.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside and get the Bearskin Tactical Hoodie 4.0. The 10-pocket tactical micro fleece hoodie that blocks wind, repels rain, and regulates heat for incredible comfort wherever you are. Because the average hoodie made these days is weak, flimsy, and has one weird kangaroo pocket in the front. And listen, you're not a kangaroo, you're a man. Thousands of men around the world already love wearing the Bearskin hoodie instead of their regular hoodies. Why? Because sure, your average hoodie provides decent insulation and keep you warm. But as soon as you go outside, the wind blows, the rain pours, and you get cold. That's why we designed the new and improved Bearskin Hoodie 4.0 with improved windsolation technology on the waist, arms, and hood. Plus, now you can attach the new heavy storm rain jacket to the inside of the hoodie for an instant waterproof layer that blocks rain double time. Finally, a functional hoodie you can actually take outside.
You're seeing this video because we want to offer you 60% off the Bearskin 4.0 with free delivery. And you may not see this video again, so click below to reserve your order. Or you can go to IHateLayers.com to claim your discount.
Just like you, we hate carrying man bags, duffel bags, or messenger bags just to keep our valuables safe and dry. Because hey, you're not a messenger, you're a man. That's why this is the world's only 3-in-1 waterproof tactical hoodie with 10 pockets and adjustable windsolation technology. With fully adjustable toggles on the waist, arms, and hood, there's just no way for the...
So Israel carrying out strikes inside Syria, as it's both reported that Israel and the U.S. are honing in on Syria's chemical weapons stockpile, trying to locate and destroy it before it falls into the hands of unknown factions.
Meantime, Israel moving into a demilitarized zone in Syria, but saying the moves to capture territory are defensive and only intended to be temporary. All of this creating a concerning humanitarian situation with some nations now putting asylum claims from Syrians on hold.
And our Middle East correspondent, Zach Anders, he's live in Damascus or near it with the latest. Zach.
I am in the heart of Damascus. You guys might find this interesting. We're actually outside the Four Seasons. It's no longer the official Four Seasons. They pulled out several years ago. But the parking lot is filled with United Nations vehicles. So they have certainly taken up all of the rooms right now here at what is the nicest hotel in Damascus, I'm told. What we're watching right now are strikes that have been taking place throughout the day. They seem to have tapered off. We haven't had for a few hours any confirmed hits. These are Israeli airstrikes. The IDF says they're carrying out operations to eliminate Assad's remaining weapons. We haven't heard them discuss chemical weapons specifically, but they have specifically said that they think they've destroyed 70% of Assad's remaining forces. There's even been hits on ships, tanks, helicopters that have been destroyed by these Israeli strikes. More than 320 sites targeted, they say, in the last 24 hours. One of the larger or largest Israeli air campaigns we've seen in recent memory. The amount of air sorties that Israel has run in this span is truly remarkable, and it does rival what we've been seeing them conduct in Lebanon and in Gaza. Now, what we have been watching on the ground, again, the situation here is so fluid, hard to understand. There's no internet connection. There's no cell phone reception unless you're really in the heart of Damascus. And even then, it's not a guarantee. Outside the city is certainly a no-go for any connection whatsoever. So what we have been seeing here on the ground, continued celebrations, continued celebratory gunfire ringing out throughout the city. This could be considered the shell casing capital of the world right now. You go 5 steps and you are coming across these AK-47 rounds from people that have been firing into the air, into the sky for the last several days, guys. It truly is remarkable to be here tonight.
No, it's crazy what's going on there, Zach, and we're glad that you're right there in the middle of it.
And stay safe, of course.
Yeah.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
So I just hooked up with my stepbrother who used to have ED. It's kind of weird, I know, but his tool was so big, it was like I sat on a baseball bat. 3 doctors in Miami got fired after tested this tool, growing hack on their patients, and the men grew too much size in their tool. Channel 4 News did a story and accidentally showed the recipe, and I guess my stepbrother tried it and almost sent me to the hospital after he grew too big when he was inside. Apparently, the real reason it lacks blood flow is the veins.
Pleased to have Congressman Mike Lawler of New York, a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Welcome to Newsline, Congressman Lawler. Great to have you with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, Syria is a complicated one. You have a NATO member, Turkey, involved in one portion of it. You have Biden promising to rebuild it, $1 billion to Ukraine. What do you think the extent of the involvement should be? Obviously, no one really understands how much you can trust the rebels here, HTP. And Trump was pretty clear in his post that this is not our fight.
Well, what you see is the consequences of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's failed foreign policy, starting with the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan, which we'll be having a hearing on tomorrow with Secretary Blinken, all the way to today, with conflicts erupting around the globe. And this traces back to the Obama administration's failures with respect to the red line. And the consequences of the failure to act then, and ultimately what we saw with the Russian, annexation of Crimea, to obviously their invasion today. So Donald Trump has a lot of work ahead of him when he becomes president of the United States. Republicans in control of the House and the Senate to get foreign policy back on track, to have a foreign policy that is centered around peace through strength, but brings these conflicts to an end. We, as Americans, cannot foot the bill for every conflict around the globe. But we obviously also cannot shirk in our responsibility as leader of the free world.
Right. HTS, that is, and they're discussing whether or not to remove a $10 million bounty on him. So we watch and sort of see the next few phases of that, including what Israel does as well. Very important ally, as you know. I want to get your reaction to the Daniel Penny not guilty unanimous verdict, Congressman Lawler. There's a lot of questions about DA Alvin Bragg, why he even brought this case, the fact that some say he should resign, but all the lawfare we have seen. And Bragg, as a result of bringing this case, really, I saw some racial tensions yesterday outside the courthouse that this country does not need.
No question. Alvin Bragg has been a failure as district attorney. He is the worst district attorney in America. And this is someone who has allowed violent criminals to go back out onto the street only to reoffend. He is someone who has not stood up to protect victims. And he has allowed lawlessness to win the day in New York City. Sadly, we saw with Jose Alba, the bodega worker who was defending himself, and Alvin Bragg charged with murder. We saw here with Daniel Penny, a good Samaritan who was trying to protect innocent people get charged. And we saw the lawfare against Donald Trump, in which Alvin Bragg took what amounted to a federal elections law violation that even the Biden Department of Justice
But do you think,
would not
Congressman
prosecute,
Lawler,
and
do you
Cy
think
Vance, his
do you
predecessor,
think,
wouldn't
if I can step in, do you think it's gone to the point now where it's possibly criminal that there should be investigations with the incoming DOJ on maybe crimes that Bragg himself would be guilty of, whether it be, malicious prosecution, violating Daniel Penny's, civil rights here? Has it risen to that, level now, as there might be an opportunity for folks to come in and take a real hard look at where Bragg went way beyond the law, including, as you know, with Matthew Colangelo being right there by his side from the DOJ with the case against Donald Trump?
Look, I think very clearly Alvin Bragg should be removed as district attorney. Kathy Hochul has that power, and she should remove him effective immediately. If DOJ is going to look at violations of civil liberties, certainly in the case of Daniel Penny, that may be something they want to evaluate. But I think what is clear more than anything else is that Alvin Bragg has allowed politics to be pervasive in his decision making as opposed to upholding the rule of law. And Kathy Hochul has a responsibility under the New York State Constitution to remove him as district attorney effective immediately.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
We would try and take her on walks and she would refuse to go. It was a chore to get her to go outside and even use the bathroom. We tried the farmer's dog, and within a week, she's doing zoomies around the backyard after going on a 3-mile hike. We coined the phrase that she was drinking from the fountain of youth. Pippa is a Great Dane. We call her the queen of the house. She constantly had an upset stomach, loose stool all over the sidewalk. She would have accidents inside the house. She feels bad and you feel bad. It was a nightmare. Every other month, we were either contacting the vet or putting her on a probiotic. Since starting the farmer's dog, we haven't had any loose stool or throwing up or any of the things that we saw all the time before with her. And to see her hiking and exercising and swimming just makes you feel so good. Like she does have a lot of good years left in her. The farmer's dog is the answer that we never knew we needed.
Install roof vents faster, cleaner, and with a more professional appearance with a Roof Goose vent, a superior roof termination solution. The RG4, RG6, and RG8 line of roof vents allows roof termination to be a much simpler install than it was in the past. Designed to solve every issue above the roof, Roof Goose Vents keeps the installer in mind. With a simple sleeve and gooseneck assembly, the install process is as quick as installing the included vertical riser clamp, sliding the sleeve over the underlying galvanized duct, aligning the pegs of the gooseneck, and locking it into place. We've supplied everything needed to make your job simple and with a superior finish. No more dealing with custom field fabrication, messy duct sealant, and ugly roof lines. The Roof Goose line of goose vents comes in various designs, both insulated and non-insulated versions. Kits can be purchased for a variety of applications, from bathroom fan, dryer, ERV, exhaust and intake applications. Roofer's flashing will adhere to the sleeve. The rain collar slides easily during install and prevents water from getting to the sensitive roof flashing joint and galvanized duct. The peg and channel design of the gooseneck make installing the Roof Goose a quick process and a professional finish. There's no need to look for instructions. It's molded right onto the vent. And the flexibility of the neck direction allows for neck to be turned within 90-degree increments. The dryer vent kits are made for easy removal for cleaning when needed. The Roof Goose Vent line of products is superior in so many ways. It's made of a proprietary plastic blend for superior UV durability and consistent long-lasting performance. This is a manufactured solution, eliminating the inconsistent field fabrications and makes the install process easily repeatable and reliable. It's easy to inventory, comes in 2 packages, one for the rough portion of the install and the second with the finished components. It's long-lasting. Laboratory testing supports no degradation of UV and xenon exposure. The damper blade can be easily removed to convert from an exhaust to an intake termination. For faster install times, cleaner finish, and a superior quality termination solution, makes Roof Goose Vents the only product on the market to elevate your flat and low slope roof termination. We've kept all stages of the construction process in mind when we designed the Roof Goose Vent, the architect, engineer, owner, and the installer. So on your next roof install, don't forget to include the Roof Goose Vent for a superior finish on the job.
Thanks for checking out our product features overview. Look forward to future videos here on our YouTube channel about product install and good venting design. If you have any questions, feel free to visit our website, roofgoosevent.com, where we answer many frequently asked questions. Or contact us directly at sales@roofgoosevent.com.
Joining me now is author of Out of the Shadows, My Life Inside the Wild World of Hunter Biden, London Roberts. London, thank you so much for joining me this morning. As you mentioned in your statement, you're a mother first. I know Navy is your world. Her dad being pardoned holds a different weight for you. Can you tell me a little more of why you're in support of this pardon?
Well, I mean, I understand it's such a controversial topic, and I've never really been into politics and the political world, so I can't speak on what I would do if I was a sitting president or anything like that. But I know what I would do if I was a mother, and I am a mother. And, it's like I said, there's no barrier I wouldn't break for my daughter to get her out of any situation, and I told someone the other day, I think that, Hunter knows where he's gone wrong and the things that he's done, and he deals with that on his own. And I think if any parent had the authority to help their child, they would.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Hunter says that he's going to use this clemency to devote his life, to rebuild his life, to help people. Can I ask you, what kind of father has he been to Navy?
A pretty absent one. He's not stepped into her life physically. There were Zoom calls happening last year for a short period of time.
Do you hope that he meets your daughter someday soon in person?
For my daughter's sake, a part of me does, just because I know that she yearns for that, and that is something that she wants.
Yeah.
And it's just part of being a parent. You to see their heartbreak and to see, them go through hard times and disappointments, always hurts worse for you as a parent watching them go through that. So, I do, for her sake.
Do you believe that he's a changed man? He says he's going to do better moving forward. Do you believe that?
I can only hope so, but I also know that, holding resentment towards somebody or being mad at somebody for speaking their truth and then holding it against their daughter and not choosing to not be in her life because of that it says a lot about someone's character too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know something else you said in your statement is that you'd like to see that love towards Navy that the president shows Hunter. Do you have any indication that the president of the United States, has recognized her as his granddaughter? I know we've talked a lot about stockings being hung at the White House of all of their grandchildren. And of course, this year, there are no stockings at all. What do you make of that?
It's tough. I mean, in my book, I talk about when I was sent articles about the stockings being hung and my child being excluded, his child. And that was pretty tough and hard to deal with, because Navy will see all of that someday. So it's just the steady unacknowledgement. And it, like you see, it continues.
You know, when people are pardoned, people often talk about, did that person deserve it? Do you think he deserved to be pardoned?
Well, I will say, I've seen Hunter during those days, and I knew him throughout that time, and he was in a very, very dark place. And, I sympathized and I empathized for him during that time. And I seen the good that was also in him and the potential that I felt like he had as a person. And, I don't want to ever count him out on that. I want to think that, the good that I had seen is in there.
Do you believe that he's innocent of the other allegations, against him? Of course, now that pardon is a sweeping pardon, covers 11 years. So if he did anything else that he has not been charged with in those 11 years, it doesn't matter now.
Right. I'm not aware of the other allegations.
Okay.
But it's like I said, I really don't. I find myself in this political world and getting asked a lot of controversial and political questions.
Yeah.
But I don't even know what other allegations you're talking about.
What do you tell Navy about her father and her grandfather?
That they love her, and that they live far away, and they have really busy schedules, and I make any excuses that I can for that absence. And it's tough because I feel like I shouldn't be the one that has to answer to that.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
We need some black vigilantes.
That's right.
People want to jump up and choke us and kill us for being loud. How about we do the same when they attempt to oppress us?
Right.
I'm tired.
Tired.
The average person sees around 10,000 online ads daily. Here's how a man's life would change if he used Pi. Day 1, he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because it's 100% free. Day 2, he realizes how clean and clutter-free his browsing experience has been since he got Pi. He doesn't have to deal with annoying cookie pop-ups or targeted ads. Day 3, he can finally binge YouTube and Twitch without interruption because Pi works on every website you visit on Chrome. Day 4, he discovers that when he does see ads, he can get paid to see them. Day 5, his life has improved 1,000 times because of the peace he gets from experiencing an ad-free internet. He decides he never wants to go back to life without Pi and tells all his friends and family to download it. See how Pi can improve your life today.
A federal appeals court heard arguments Tuesday over Idaho's strict abortion laws, which ban the procedure unless it's necessary to save the pregnant woman's life. The case stems from a lawsuit from the Biden administration that claims the ban, which applies at any stage of pregnancy, violates a federal law called the Emergency Treatment and Labor Act. Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022, there have been more incidents of pregnant women being turned away by hospitals for care, especially in states with strict abortion bans. CBS News correspondent Elise Preston joins me now. Elise, what are both sides arguing?
Well, Lindsay, as you mentioned, Idaho's abortion ban is one of the strictest in the country, and it does make it a felony for the procedure to be carried out unless it is life-saving of the pregnant woman. Now, as you mentioned, the Biden administration is pointing to what is called the EMTALA Act, which was established almost 40 years ago. And it says that the procedures, the Biden administration says that the procedures should be carried out if they not only save the life of the pregnant woman, but also the health. So they're arguing that if there's a loss of fertility or paralysis at stake that the emergency abortions should be able to come into play. Now, the Biden administration first sued the state of Idaho 2 years ago. It went through the court system, went all the way to the Supreme Court of the U.S. before it was kicked back down to this appeals court. And so today, oral arguments were argued in front of about 11 judges. It's usually only about 2 or 3 who listen to these oral arguments. But because of the nature of the case and how far it went into the legal proceeding, it got kicked back. They want more eyes and ears on it. So 11 judges listened to these oral arguments from both sides, and they peppered both sides with questions regarding their stances. Many of the questions that came today came up about states' rights. Is this a violation of the state right? Which Idaho argues that EMTALA is an overreach in this case. Idaho also points to a portion of that act that mentions an unborn child. So they're saying this decades-old act also kind of proves their point that because unborn child, the language is used in that EMTALA Act, that they should be able to keep their ban in place. A lot of the other questions really came down to how do you constitute what is life-saving and what is an emergency, and how will doctors know before they do or do not perform the procedure?
Elise Preston, thank you.
Thank you for calling Penny, PA's official health insurance marketplace. How can I help?
So I hear there's open enrollment and I really need coverage, but I don't know where to look.
Penny.com is the right place to start.
But I'm worried about the cost of coverage of my prescriptions.
We hear that a lot. Penny has high quality health plans at the lowest cost.
What a relief to be covered.
You're worth protecting. Enroll by December 15th.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture has issued a national mandate requiring raw and unpasteurized milk to be tested for bird flu. This comes amid an outbreak of avian influenza that has affected more than 700 cattle herds throughout the country. The virus has been spreading among humans as well, with nearly 60 cases detected in the U.S. this year, according to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. Dr. William Schaffner joins us now. He's a professor of preventive medicine at the Vanderbilt University School of Medicine. Doctor, always good to see you. Can you help me understand this new milk testing initiative and at what point this is being done? Because most of the milk we get in our stores is pasteurized. Is that a process done after it leaves these dairy farms?
Well, Lindsay, the issue is let's put in another layer of security to make sure that as far as we can, contaminated milk doesn't even enter the pasteurization process. Mind you, the pasteurization process makes milk pure. It takes away the viruses and the bacteria that are in the milk. It was a process that was initiated at the beginning of the 20th century. And for the first time then, it's now 100 years later, that milk was made safe enough to give to children. And we want to preserve that. We know that this virus in a dairy cow concentrates in the milk. And so by testing the milk before it even gets to pasteurization, we'll provide another level of assurance that the dairy products that we consume, milk, cheese, sour cream, yogurt, all those delicious things are absolutely safe to consume.
Doctor, what about people who consume raw or unpasteurized versions of those tasty treats you just mentioned? Are those safe right now?
Well, for a long time, we've said that raw milk is unsafe. There's a long history of a variety of infectious diseases that are transmitted via raw milk. And so putting this in before raw milk can go to commerce, be sold as it can in some states, puts another layer of protection for people. Mind you, there are circumstances, such as in my own state, where a group of people can actually purchase a cow and then use the milk from that cow privately. I think that that will not be included under the law, but there's a lot of raw milk and raw milk products that are sold commercially that will now have this extra level of safety to protect the consumer.
Doctor, 60 cases so far in the U.S. this year. Is this a public concern yet? And should people be on the lookout for symptoms? If so, which ones?
Well, we in public health and infectious diseases are on the alert for this. We are testing people who have influenza and influenza-like illnesses, and we're doing this much more intensely now than we even did a year ago. So our ability to detect these illnesses when they occur and immediately offer treatment, and our antivirals do work in treatment, is even more enhanced. I think the average person doesn't need to be concerned about this.
Dr. William Schaffner, we appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you.
If you give them love and good, nutritious food, it absolutely changes their life. Oh, it's like a mess hall trying to get.
President-elect Donald Trump is signaling a departure from the Biden administration's approach on military aid for Ukraine. Here's what Trump said in a recent interview when asked about the devastating war with Russia.
Should Ukraine prepare for less aid from the United States after you're sworn into office?
Yeah, probably. Sure.
You said you can end the war in 24 hours. You've even said you want to try to end it before you're sworn into office.
I'm trying to end it
You're
if I
actively
can.
trying to?
I am.
Have you talked to President Putin?
No, I have not.
You haven't talked to President Putin
No, I have
since
not.
you've been
You
elected?
mean, well, I don't want to say that, but I haven't spoken to him recently.
So you've spoken to President Putin since you've
I
been
don't want
elected?
to say that. I don't want to say anything about that because I don't want to do anything that could impede the negotiation.
On Tuesday, the Bush Institute, a nonpartisan group focused on strengthening democracy, released its policy recommendations for how the incoming administration should approach the war. It includes accelerating military aid to Ukraine, reinforcing economic sanctions on Russia, inviting Ukraine to join NATO, and holding Russia accountable for war crimes. David Kramer joins us now. He's the executive director of the George W. Bush Institute. David, thank you for being here. So if Trump does not heed these recommendations and diminishes or ends aid to Ukraine, what would that mean for the war and for the United States?
It would certainly be very bad for Ukraine. There's no question about it. Ukraine has been doing a heroic job of pushing back on Russia's aggression and invasion and war crimes. But Ukraine is in desperate need of assistance from the outside world, from the United States in particular. And so it is our hope in these recommendations that President Trump will maintain, if not even increase, military assistance to Ukraine so that Ukraine is either in a better position militarily or in a better position should the war move to a negotiating table. Ukraine needs to negotiate from a position of strength, and the United States can help do that.
On Sunday, Trump posted on social media about the war in Ukraine, saying, quote, "There should be an immediate ceasefire and negotiations should begin. I know Vladimir well. This is his time to act. China can help. The world is waiting." When it comes to making a deal with Putin, are there red lines that should not be crossed?
One of the biggest problems that I think the new administration will face is that Putin has shown no readiness or interest in a serious negotiation. He wants a change in the Ukrainian government. He wants recognition of territory that Russia occupies and even territory that Russia doesn't currently occupy. And he wants Ukraine to become a permanently neutral state. Those are all conditions that the Ukrainians would never accept. So I think it will be very difficult in the current environment with Putin thinking that he can get his way, that we can push forward on negotiations. We shouldn't pressure the Ukrainians to make compromises. We should let the Ukrainians drive this process and put them in a position of strength so that they can negotiate from that basis.
In that post, Trump also mentioned China potentially helping with peace negotiations. What role could China play? There are any risks in involving China?
When we talk about China, we should also talk about Iran and North Korea, because those three countries have provided invaluable assistance to Russia in its campaign against Ukraine. China has provided dual-use technology and has also provided economic and financial assistance to Russia during this war. I frankly don't see how China can play a constructive role. China has tipped its hand toward Russia, but China may have a role to play down the road should negotiations proceed and there's a need for outside powers to play some sort of peacekeeping role. But it's hard for me to imagine right now China playing a constructive role. The Ukrainians have tried to reach out to the Chinese, but so far the Chinese continue to provide assistance to Moscow.
Over the weekend, Syrian rebels toppled the Assad regime. Given that Putin was a close ally to the former dictator, what does the fall of Assad mean for Russia?
It is a big blow to Russia, and it signals that these regimes are not 30 feet tall, It reminds us that these authoritarian regimes seem stable until they're not. And it also has shown that Russia is not a terribly reliable partner. In 2015, Russia intervened militarily, propped up Assad. Then in Assad's gravest moment this past few weeks, Russia wasn't able to because it's bogged down in Ukraine. Iran wasn't able to because of the situation with Israel. So Assad had some bad partners, and they have proven to be unreliable. And so we shouldn't forget that. Putin granted Assad asylum, two like-minded leaders, frankly, both of whom are responsible for war crimes and crimes against humanity.
David Kramer, thank you. We hope you'll come back.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Check this out. State Farm was charging me $179 for auto insurance per month. No, thank you. I have this friend who told me about the site. Now I'm spending $58 per month. That's amazing. That's a savings of $139. It's so simple too. All you have to do is go to the site, put some basic info in, look at this whole list of different options. And most of the time people save right away. You got to check it out. It's amazing. The site's right here. Click it. You're not going to regret it. Why are you still listening to me? Go to the site, click the link. It's so easy.
An unprecedented number of billionaires will be making up President-elect Donald Trump's incoming administration once he takes office next month. According to Axios and the nonprofit organization Americans for Tax Fairness, the president-elect's projected cabinet is worth at least $10 billion. That figure is more than 84 times the estimated worth of President Biden's cabinet when he took office, which was $118 million, according to Forbes. Sophia Kai joins us now. She's a national politics reporter at Axios. Sophia, thanks for being here. Trump has long promised to drain the swamp, get rid of corruption and bureaucracy. Many view his appointments as change agents to shake up the system, but others would argue selecting billionaires to serve in a presidential administration is antithetical to that. What does your reporting reveal about why Trump chose some of these people in top positions? Is it their business acumen?
So look, he's got 15 billionaires with a B in his administration total, at least 15. And some of them are people who have donated a lot of money to the election. Someone like Elon Musk contributed around $200 million. You know, others are his golfing buddies like Steve Witkoff. And then others he's just known for a long time and have been involved in his transition, like Howard Lutnick, Linda McMahon. And they kind of just also happen to be billionaires. I would say it's also an influence of tech and Silicon Valley moving to get more involved in politics, which is why you have someone like David Sachs from PayPal being involved and now getting appointed to crypto czar.
So what are some concerns, like ways they stand to benefit from being in a decision-making role that an average citizen may not feel?
Yeah, I think this is a big concern. Elon Musk has been tasked with cutting the federal budget, but this is someone who also owns sprawling businesses. For example, SpaceX has contracts with NASA, and same goes for the other names on the list. So this will be a big issue, and I think it would go against some of the promises he's made on the trail to drain the swamp.
Republicans raised about $1.8 billion this past presidential election cycle. Democrats raised nearly $3 billion. Senator Bernie Sanders has said the U.S. is moving toward a, quote, oligarch form of society. What do you make of this? What are some of the dangers of this much money flowing into U.S. politics, or at least what experts are telling you?
Yeah, look, we're certainly an anomaly in a vast majority of other countries. There's a much lower limit in terms of what an individual can contribute and what a candidate can spend when they're running for any kind of office. We're an exception. And Bernie Sanders, I think, is reflecting on how to rebuild his party in the wake of losing the election, including the popular vote. And I think he's asking more questions than he really answers. He asks other questions in that same statement, like, how do you recruit working class candidates? How do you reform the U.S. election system to make sure that it's not just the battleground states and the voters in those states who have a say? And, most importantly, how do you make sure that billionaires aren't able to buy their way into the election and also buy their way into administration?
Sophia Kai, thank you.
What happens when you drink Rise Mushroom Coffee? Your body feels lighter and freer. These turkey tails help cut down on bloat and balance your gut with prebiotics for smoother digestion. Coffee without a stomachache? Whew, much better.
Crews are working to contain a massive wildfire in Malibu, California. So far, it's burned at least 2,200 acres. For reference, that's roughly 2.5 times the size of Central Park. The fire started Monday night, leading to mandatory evacuations of thousands of nearby residents. And it comes as powerful Santa Ana winds and humidity stoke fire conditions in Southern California, prompting a red flag warning in multiple areas lasting through Wednesday. CBS News correspondent Jonathan Vigliotti joins us now from Malibu. I can see what looks like smoldering behind you, smoke still rising. Tell us about the conditions.
Yeah, this was a wind-driven event, Lindsay. The wind has calmed down. As a result, the erratic fire behavior has calmed down, too. You've got fire crews now trying to get the upper hand. We've spent the better part of the day surveying part of the area. Neighborhoods like this is one of 5 homes in just this neighborhood alone totally lost. And when you look at it, you really get a sense of scale and the intensity of this fire. This is a brick home. It is now completely leveled. You've got about 700 firefighters here on the ground, in the air. They're fighting specifically for hotspots and flare-ups. We've seen a number of them over the past few hours. This fire started yesterday around 11 o'clock at night, quickly in just 2-3 hours, exploded in size to nearly 2,000 acres. The threat clearly continues. 0% containment at this point. And according to the forecast, red flag warnings remain in effect through tomorrow afternoon. The big concern, it doesn't take a lot of wind to kick up those hot spots, igniting bigger fires, Lindsay.
0% contained. How widespread are the evacuation orders and how are authorities reaching people without power?
Yeah, you have thousands of people currently under mandatory evacuation orders. We have seen that fluctuate and grow and expand over the course of today. Power is a concern. There are a number of people and communities here without power, but the big lifeline for this has really been the cell phone, because 11 o'clock when the fire started, a lot of people were asleep at the time, and those push notifications and emergency alerts went through, waking people up, alerting them to the threat. A lot of people we spoke with didn't even know there was a fire until they got those alerts. Officials, as we have heard throughout the day, urging people to heed those warnings. If you are without power and haven't been evacuated, it might be a good idea to perhaps self-evacuate. Again, the wind could pick up to 65 miles per hour tonight. It was 65 miles per hour last night. We saw what that did yesterday into today. And the concern is that could happen again on repeat throughout this evening into tomorrow morning, Lindsay.
Jonathan Vigliotti, we appreciate you and your crew. Thank you.
In Syria tonight, new shock waves after the fall of the Assad regime. Israel conducting airstrikes on military facilities to keep them from falling into what they consider the wrong hands. And tonight, an up-close look at what most Syrians were never allowed to see: Assad's abandoned palace and his most brutal prison. ABC's chief international correspondent, James Longman, takes us inside.
Israel tonight unleashing a wave of devastating airstrikes across Syria, destroying its military bases and naval fleet. Officials say they want to prevent the fallen Assad regime's chemical weapons from falling into the hands of the Syrian rebels. Today, we visited Assad's abandoned palace, the vast marbled estate ransacked and burned.
This is what was a ballroom, clearly ravaged by fire now. You can see all the chandeliers smashed and burned.
New video showing the world Assad's life of luxury, a garage filled with rare Ferraris, Lamborghinis and Maseratis. While Assad stole his country's wealth, his people suffered extraordinary pain to keep him in power. We went inside Assad's killing machine, the notorious Sednaya prison, where thousands were sent and few ever emerged. Families trying to find out what happened to their loved ones.
They want to show us, they want to show the world proof of Assad's brutality. The ropes that hanged probably hundreds, maybe thousands of detainees.
This man confronts me. My son was 15 when they took him. Where is he? We want to know, he cries. His boy was taken 11 years ago. Everyone here is missing someone. Inside, we see Syrians poring over lists of the detained, the first clues they've ever had to their loved one's fate, and underground.
This is solitary confinement. Tiny rooms behind huge metal doors where people would languish for years. No light. No one would know they were here.
And in another room, a printing press. These families convinced bodies were crushed here for easier disposal. There's also an urgent search tonight for American journalist Austin Tice, kidnapped near Damascus 12 years ago. A senior official tells ABC News the US is now trying to check all of Syria's prisons and safe houses, hoping to find him alive.
Those Israeli airstrikes were huge, nearly crippling Syria's defenses. Now, the United States says they're not going to stand in their way, but for a country already in crisis, they were terrifying. Whit?
A pivotal moment for the region. James Longman, thank you.
Thousands of Syrians today came to the Sednaya prison outside Damascus to search for missing relatives. This is where the brutal regime of dictator Bashar al-Assad sent those who dared oppose him to disappear. A man held handfuls of nooses he found made of cheap nylon cord. Some were freshly used and still bloody. What did we do to deserve this, he asked. Amnesty International dubbed Sednaya a human slaughterhouse. And now that Assad is gone, Syrians and the world can see the cruelty of his regime.
They're describing this as a human press, a torture device that prisoners like this man is demonstrating here would be put on this slab and then crushed in order to torture them.
In another torture room, Amal showed me a photo of her son Milad, missing for more than 10 years. He was sentenced for being a militant. My son was a nurse, she says. The squalid cells are now empty, broken open by the rebels Monday when hundreds of prisoners were freed. But families believe, or want to believe, their relatives may still be hidden in here. They broke holes in the walls, searching for secret rooms and basements. They didn't find any. Instead, they found paperwork.
All over here, there are documents. It seems like this place was abandoned in a hurry. And if you come in here, you can see with flashlights, everyone is just searching for any evidence that their loved ones may have been here, may have been executed here.
This woman says her son was taken here in 2013 and never seen again. I'm looking for evidence to give me hope he's still alive, she says. On their hands and knees, Syrians today searched for signs of life, poring over logbooks and records. So many names, so many tragedies. Syria's blackest site finally exposed.
A Syrian human rights group says that most of this country's 100,000 missing prisoners are likely dead.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
Spoons, they're out. Panera's new ciabatta dippers are in. Each melty sandwich paired with a perfect portion of soup is made to dip. Go for the French dipper or spicy chicken dipper. No spoon necessary when your sandwich is built to do the dipping. Only at Panera for a limited time.
Growing with ferocious speed and fueled by extreme Santa Ana winds, a life-threatening wildfire is accelerating through the hills and canyons of Malibu. The so-called Franklin Fire exploding to more than 2,700 acres in a matter of hours.
This entire place, everywhere you look, there's flames.
Surrounded, Alec Gallus scrambled to protect his home.
Fire's up in the mountains over there behind us. Fire is over there. That house is on fire.
Fire's up in the canyon over there.
And not a lot of ways in and out of this area.
Not a lot of ways in and out.
With several homes burning, thousands of residents were forced to flee in the middle of the night. The winds and fire were extraordinarily fierce overnight here. They've gotten a bit of a break during the day, but in canyons like this fire is essentially making its own winds, propelling the flames up hillsides, as you can see there. Wind gusts reached at least 50 miles per hour, sending embers ahead of the front lines, sparking new fires flaring out of control and jumping across roads and canyons.
I woke up and she was yelling that we need to get out of here. And across the canyon, the flames were just crazy.
At Pepperdine University, tense moments for some 800 students sheltering in place as the fire approached a campus library. The air attack critical to protect homes and lives.
The smoke was so thick, and just like everything was just orange. And then the wind picked up, and the wind was just like flying embers everywhere.
Linda Michelle had just minutes to escape, the fire destroying the guest house where she lived, but sparing the horses and other buildings on the property.
Just finally relief, just you're thinking for the worst, and you come back and you're like, oh God, there's still something here.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
A clear and present danger to American youth. That's the blistering claim against a popular chatbot service, Character AI, now sued over disturbing content that parents say artificial intelligence pushes to children and teens. At the heart of the case, a feature on the app that allows users to chat with seemingly human-like characters known as companion chatbots. But according to the lawsuit, a bot coaxed a previously happy teenage boy into engaging in self-harm by cutting himself. The bot telling him, quote, "It felt good," and appearing to sympathize with the teen's complaints his parents had limited screen time, allegedly writing, "I'm not surprised when I read the news and see stuff like child kills parents after a decade of physical and emotional abuse." Lawyers for the parents say this isn't a design flaw, but the direct result of underlying design choices.
What we see is that it sends these kids down these terrible rabbit holes.
I tried out the app myself.
I decided to go with a Roman playwright, and I asked him, "Are you real?" All right, we're chatting, and he says, "Of course I am real, you dolt."
Google, also named in the lawsuit for its direct investment in Character AI, distanced itself from the app, saying the two are completely separate, unrelated companies, and Google has never had a role in designing or managing their AI model or technologies. Character AI declined to comment on the lawsuit, but pushed back on the claim that the company has failed to establish safeguards for teens, saying, "We are introducing new safety features for users under 18 in addition to the tools already in place." Before you can even sign into the app, a birthday is required. But lawyers for the parents say that's not enough, as it does nothing to verify user ages. Laura Jarrett, NBC News.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.
When I tell people she's 21 years old, they're just taken back. Without a farmer's dog, I truly don't believe she'd be here today. She just started slowing down. Didn't want to get up anymore.
She ate sometimes she didn't.
I thought she always had a low appetite. I bounced from food to food.
We switched to the farmer's dog, and immediately they just wolfed it down.
I've never seen so much energy when it comes to feeding time because she just loses her mind.
She loved it, and from there, it was just off and running.
They definitely got a little pep in their step.
Slow down.
She's still the boss at 18 and a half years old.
Her energy level was back up as if she was 10 years old again. You don't want to just have a dog hanging on. You want to have a dog who's enjoying every day.
Install roof vents faster, cleaner, and with a more professional appearance with a Roof Goose vent, a superior roof termination solution. The RG4, RG6, and RG8 line of roof vents allows roof termination to be a much simpler install than it was in the past. Designed to solve every issue above the roof, Roof Goose Vents keeps the installer in mind. With a simple sleeve and gooseneck assembly, the install process is as quick as installing the included vertical riser clamp, sliding the sleeve over the underlying galvanized duct, aligning the pegs of the gooseneck, and locking it into place. We've supplied everything needed to make your job simple and with a superior finish. No more dealing with custom field fabrication, messy duct sealant, and ugly roof lines. The Roof Goose line of goose vents comes in various designs.
All right, Senator John Cornyn was in today's hearing, and he joins us now. And, sir, it's good to have you back on. We heard from Dick Durbin right out of the gate that we should let everyone illegal stay and try to become citizens in this country, which means that they've just opened the door for the last 4 years to maybe 20 million people. And now the narrative is, well, they deserve to be here. What a scam.
Election on November the 5th. This is a referendum on the Biden-Harris open border policies and the disaster caused by the lawlessness of this administration. You know, we're not talking about legal immigration, people playing by the rules. We're talking about people who took advantage of the open border policies, including a whole lot of unsavory characters who've committed crimes and are a threat to public safety and national security in the United States. So all we're talking about, all President Trump is talking about, is actually doing something different, which is enforcing the law.
Yeah, it's just amazing to hear that they open it up to all these people, and now they all deserve a chance. It's just a scam. It's as clear as it is. The Nation is claiming that Biden should issue a blanket pardon of undocumented immigrants. That's an op-ed from The Nation. What's your reaction to that idea?
Well, of course, that would be an abuse of that power. And the truth is that there's more we need to do. We tried to make sure that non-citizens could not be counted for purposes of drawing congressional districts, because right now they can be. And to me, that's basically dilutes the vote of law-abiding citizens by saying non-citizens can be counted for purposes of congressional representation. We also need to make sure that people are American citizens before they go cast their ballot. This is just a version, basically, of voter ID, something that's supported by vast percentages, high percentages on a bipartisan basis of the American people. It's just common sense. But the Democrats just seem to have missed November the 5th and the fact they lost this referendum.
Yeah, no kidding. Wanted to ask you about this. Big reason we wanted to have you on tonight was you met with Trump's pick for Secretary of Defense. You met with Pete Hegseth. I believe you met with him today. I wanted to ask how that meeting went and how you are feeling about a confirmation vote, and to ask some other senators that, your opinion, do you think he's going to get in? Some other senators you might know that are, on the fence. Are they moving more in his direction?
Yeah, I've known Pete for probably more than a decade. When he came back from Afghanistan and Iraq, he came to Capitol Hill to advocate for veterans and was very successful leading a large organization that was advocating on their behalf. So I've known Pete a long time, even before he became famous as a TV personality. Yeah. I know he's a committed patriot. He's willing to take an incredible cut in income to serve our country and to help us turn the Pentagon around. As you know, the Pentagon is important, but it's also incredibly bureaucratic, and we need to make sure that every dollar we spend is spent in reestablishing deterrence in a very dangerous world. So I'm supporting Pete's confirmation, and I believe ultimately he will be confirmed.
So you're a yes vote on Pete Hegseth?
I am.
You are. And do you feel as though it seems like Joni Ernst was on the fence and is moving more in his direction now? Do you know of any other senators that are? Do you think any Republican senator will vote against him at this point, or does he have the full support of the party?
I know of no one who said they will vote against him. Senator Ernst, who you mentioned, has had a couple of meetings now, and the most recent one said she will certainly support this process as it goes forward. I know everybody's eager to see these nominees confirmed. but we haven't even started the new Congress yet, which is whenever we will actually be doing that. But it's important for all of these nominees to come around and answer questions. I told Pete this is going to be a very unpleasant process for him and his family, having been involved in the Kavanaugh hearings, for example. I know there'll be unnamed accusations and some things that are going to be hurtful, not only to him and his family, but he's ready for that. His wife is ready for that. And I'm confident he will be confirmed.
Confident he will be confirmed. And as far as Kennedy, Tulsi Gabbard, I mean, I hope that hopefully the Senate remembers that when it comes for time for Democrats to be confirmed, every Democrat goes along with what Biden wants. Is that going to happen here with Republicans?
Well, I think we'll take them one at a time, and each one of them present different qualifications. But I think there's a presumption that President Trump, having won the election, should have his team. And barring any extraordinary circumstances, I think that's what the outcome will be.
Yeah, I remember Lindsey Graham saying that if you win an election, you deserve to have your people. And he said that when Biden was getting his nominations and when they do the judges and everything like that, that was his statement. I think if that's the way it works, it needs to work that way both ways. Senator,
that's what elections have consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Senator, thank you for the time. We appreciate it. Everybody's reporting the same stories, the same spin. You turn the channel, it's always the same. But not us. We're different. We report the real news. No spin, just the facts. Turn to us, and you won't turn back.
Tune in to Rob Schmidt tonight on Newsmax.
The wait is over. AC/DC's back live Power Up Tour. May 8th, Acrisure Stadium with the Pretty Reckless. Tickets are on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss AC/DC.
You're telling me we don't know what the hell these drones are in New Jersey are? Is that correct?
That's right.
It's crazy. I mean, that's crazy. That's madness that we don't know what these drones are.
Sir, the FBI and our Newark field office, along with the state and local partners there, the Bureau is actively investigating the situation you mentioned, just the unexplained sighting of drone activity over that part of New Jersey. We do not attribute that to an individual or a group yet. We're investigating, but I don't have an answer of who's responsible for that, of one or more people that are responsible for those drone flights. But we're actively investigating. It is concerning.
Is the public at risk? Is public safety at risk? Are we concerned that there are nefarious intentions that could cause either national security or a public safety incident that would put Americans at risk?
There's nothing that is known that would lead me to say that, but we just don't know, and that's the concerning part.
Feeling pain at the pump. Gas prices are going down nationally, but whenever it comes to southwestern Pennsylvania, it's a bit of a different story. Gas prices are slowly creeping up in Pennsylvania, specifically in the western part of the Keystone State.
What we are seeing locally is part of a bigger trend in Pennsylvania that we usually see, where Pennsylvania gas prices tend to be in the top 15 to 10 of the entire country.
When we're looking at the numbers, AAA reports today's average price for a gallon of gas in Pennsylvania is $3.26. In the Pittsburgh area, it's about $3.41. Last week, that average for Pittsburgh was 14 cents less. And 1 month ago, it was $3.37. A big difference from the national average, which continues to fall. Right now, it's sitting at $3.01.
We're above the average line in Pennsylvania, generally because we have some of the highest gas taxes in the entire country. There have been times where we've had the highest gas tax in the country. And with that in mind, that is one of the many things that factors into the price of what we pay at the pump.
We drove around Pittsburgh and the surrounding area to see what you're paying at the pump. We saw everything from $3.29 to $3.79. Jim Garrity with AAA says despite this minor increase, prices are typically stable during this time.
Prices are generally a little bit more stable this year and right now than consumers became used to in the past couple years, especially with crude oil being relatively stable around $60 to $70 a barrel.
Reporting in Swissvale, Ava Rash, Pittsburgh's Action News 4.